So on May 31st, 2021, I flew to Lisbon and I started my Portugal adventure. I suppose I should admit, as a background to the experiences I had there, I had a particular view in my head of what Portugal would be. And that may have been my downfall. But basically in my head, I had decided that Portugal was the place I may want to live. I may want to completely set up my life, and I had a range of ideas about the fact that I could set up in the countryside. I could, be near the culture. I suppose in my mind I had certain aspects that I wanted to do in my life, and I thought I could both, be near a bit of a city centre maybe, but then also have somewhere out in the country and just experience the varieties of it. The fact that it gets great weather. Culturally, everyone seemed to want to be there. It was the thing everyone was talking about. And you do have to remember, while Portugal is still quite popular, there's probably far more known about it now because, ironically, since the pandemic had started, people moved there and people had that kind of dream themselves. And ironically, the dream wasn't just a lot of Europeans, it was actually a lot of Americans, a lot of North Americans. So a lot of people you were hearing about moving there were also moving from much further afield and had decided in their mind and heart, and there was a lot of YouTubers covering a lot of the Portugal experience. So, I was getting a sense of, how it felt, and I thought I had a sense before going as to how I would feel. And so this has been a really clear thing as to how I'm going to try and learn about my experiences and where I really do want to be eventually, and what I'm gearing closer towards now, because Portugal was a falling to earth. It was wholly and solely not the place that would probably work for my personality and the things I was looking for. And a lot of what was to blame was probably my expectations, but also you don't get a sense of a place before you're there. You can't watch a video. You have to have your day-to-day. You have to do the being around people, and you can't do it as a holiday or a trip. And ironically, in my case, I hadn't even done that. I'd just never been. I think, look, I tell a lie. I had been, I think, on a Spain tour, and we went across the border to one village in Portugal, but it was so close to the Spanish border. It was more of a tourist town. It wasn't a different experience. So I don't think it had given me any insights into Portugal at all. And the reading, the YouTube video, none of it had prepared me. None. I thought I knew. I also thought that, I'd look around and I'd find things, and I think I've had this idea in my head that I'll get somewhere and I'll be like, wow, I feel at home here. This is it. Oh my God, I found no. So I've probably abandoned that concept because it isn't useful, but also I found that I need to get a feel for a place. And so there's some places I've been that I've liked, but I don't know that there's somewhere that I want to make my forever home. And that's part of what I'm looking for. But it's not entirely what I'm looking for. I might be looking for places that I'd live a couple of months of the year. And so I like the idea of being part of a community. And that was more strongly what it was. But then I have people across the world, so I've accepted a lot of that might be online. Anyway, back to Portugal. Portugal and I are not friends. Sorry, Portugal. We're not. And everything I'm going to say in this video is about how it sits for me. I've watched a stack of videos, read a stack of articles about people who've found their place, who've loved every minute of it, who wouldn't think of being anywhere else. And I think it's a big mistake if you assume one place is really good or really bad. The experiences in a place is entirely subjective. It's about where that person's come from, what their experience is, where, what fits for them, what does, what doesn't, what they're used to. So Portugal's a lovely place, and for the record, I met some incredibly wonderful Portuguese people, some of which I'm still connected to. But as a country, as the feeling, as the culture, no. I just don't fit. And I'd already come from a country I was born and raised in that I don't fit, so I do not need to be considering another place where I would not fit. So culturally, there is an attitude I kind of felt, and it was a kind of a despondency about life. And I think for me, that was probably the biggest reason why it wasn't going to work for me. I come from a country where it's different, but also if it's not working, you go, okay, what are we going to do about it? Like, how are we going to sort it out? And I just felt there was I met a girl in the Czech Republic who at a bus stop, and I was talking to her, and she's come from a previously communist country, and she's 25, and her friend was laughing because she's like, oh, she's just left Portugal because she thought they were too sad. And I was like, whoa. And I thought it was just me. This girl's 25. She's come from a communist country. Communist. Granted, she might not have lived under it but she'd gone back because she just didn't cope with it. And I was like, yeah, it's something that was very significant for me. Now, again, I didn't meet every person in the country. I didn't go everywhere. I went a lot of places. I didn't just go to the Algarve. I was in Lisbon. I was in the Algarve. I was in Porto. I did travel around. I was there for a couple of months, but it just, I couldn't, it's not a feeling that works for me. So say, for example, I can live in first world places that are busy, but I don't like busy cities now. So Lisbon wouldn't suit me as a city for that reason. Additionally, I'm not getting any younger, and Lisbon is on one big hill, which I wasn't aware of at the time. And that would be fine, except for the fact that I spent time being challenged by that. I mean, I remember being in a train station, and there was this little Portuguese old man, and he would have been, those old people you come across that are like 90, going on 150, really sweet, had what we call in Australia a nana trolley, like one of those trolleys you have to put your shopping in. And he's standing at the bottom of these stairs, and he's in the train station, and we're the only two there left because it's stairs and I don't like it. I looked for a lift. No, okay. So he's trying to work out how to get out of there. There's no rail workers. There's no one. And I couldn't speak Portuguese, and I had no expectation of him speaking English, so let me say that. But I kind of gestured to the bag, did you want me to help? And he's like, yes, or whatever, and so I think he had rocks in it, to be honest. I nearly broke. I definitely strained a muscle. I was like, my God, what's he got in this? He wouldn't have got this. It felt like it weighed twice him, and he was little, but like, anyway, I got it up, and I'm like, voila, and he goes, français, and I went, no, Australian. He goes, so we parted ways, and I was more than happy to help him, but it's not old person friendly, and I'm heading to old person, right? I'm not heading to younger. It ain't going in that direction for any of us. So, if I was thinking about Lisbon, the city wasn't designed that way. I found a lot of places that, again, didn't have that, so that would have been a big issue. But none of the services were in place. None of the things were in place that I had a feeling in my mind were there's some development that probably would need to go on. And while certain parts of Portugal look really similar to Greece's infrastructure is more developed, weirdly. So it was a mix of things for me that I didn't have the right feeling. I was like, no, I don't. And there was a lot of occurrences, and I was in some tourist experiences as well, and there were some ups and downs, but the smile never really reached a lot of people's eyes. And I thought, okay, well, they're challenged, and I had a lot of discussions with people about the economy and austerity issues, and honestly, Portugal's had a hard go of it. Like, I'm by no means dismissing that, but there wasn't a feeling of kind of getting past it. Whereas if I had to compare another country that had that, Greece, there was just a feeling of we'll get on with it. So I think culturally it wasn't the right fit for me. And I thought, okay, and it was such a crash to earth because I had assumed I was going to set everything up there. I was going to set up vertical farms and get some land in the country and invest in Lisbon in an apartment. I had a whole plan. And the whole plan fell apart at speed, at a breakneck speed of very fast. So Portugal for me was coloured by the fact that I had built it up onto a pedestal, and it came crashing down. So it's not for me as a place to live. There's a lot of great aspects of Portugal. In terms of visiting it, you've got a lot of options, and it's affordable, and there were a lot of really helpful people. So there's a lot of aspects, but for me, it literally didn't sit. And I think there is a cultural aspect. I think, and I've also been thinking about, because of Europe, you get to a certain point at Europe where there's less infrastructure, less development. and you're dealing with, you know, a stronger cultural aspect, versus if you go further north, there's more infrastructure, it's more expensive. So Europe's got these kind of things going on. But the Portugal experience for me, and I haven't been to the islands like Madeira or the ones off the Azores. I have not been there, so I can't speak to that. I thought about going, but then I thought I was really kind of down by the time I left Portugal. I was a bit disillusioned. I was disillusioned by the experience I'd had. I was disillusioned by the hopes I'd had that had gone. And I think I was disillusioned by the fact that I thought I had the answer to a big question, life question for me. And I didn't. It was gone. I was like, okay. Because I thought, you know, Portugal had the affordability aspect, but it had a lovely culture and it had your right way. No, I since read some articles, one that took me 3 days to read the comments. It was pages and pages and pages of them. And it was people sharing more of their personal experience of them trying to do it, or what had happened, or friends had told them. So basically, my Portugal experience it wasn't right for me. And this is a big key where I think you really do have to go somewhere, and you have to have a very realistic view of what you need, what you want, and what's available. So I can't remember their names. Their son's a YouTuber, and so are they. It's a couple. I think they're settling in France now. They'd gone to Portugal. So they traveled through Portugal. They'd loved it. They were going to settle there. They couldn't quite find the house. And they then kind of found out it really wasn't for them, because they'd had a magical travel experience, but living there was very different. So these are kind of different aspects to take in mind. But my Portugal experience was, Portugal's not for me. Pretty simple, really. So no offense to Portugal. Lovely country, lovely people, lots of great things going for it. Lots of people visit there, and lots of people find that it holds a place in their heart, and they couldn't think of being anywhere else, but not for me. So I recommend that if you are thinking about moving there, please go first. Go for a couple of months. Go to different places and get a true sense of what it's like, so you don't arrive with rose-coloured glasses and leave with broken dreams, which is pretty much my Portugal experience. So I don't know if this has been helpful and insightful. This is more, I suppose, a word to the wise of anywhere you go. But after leaving Germany and the experiences I'd had, Germany was very formal, lots of rules. Portugal didn't have that, but it also didn't have a lot of things I'd been looking for, and I was sad. I was actually quite sad that it wasn't the place. But nowhere seemed to have that for me there. And so I continue the journey of looking for that. But the Portugal experience, so I am going to share all the places I went. I've got a lot of footage. I'm going to have a lot of photo essays, and I'm going to share different things. I'll probably look at it actually and go, oh, wow, that was pretty good. Oh, I really like, oh, that was... So there were some definite highlights, and there's no question. Every country has something to offer, but the Portugal experience for me isn't something I will be returning to or considering as my forever long term. But to the Portuguese people, thank you. And yeah, there's lots of people that are in love with you, so it's going good.